Good evening, Class D. I am lead researcher Equi, or Equinox Doodles, or Michael that you might often hear from here. I've gathered all of you here today to discuss a important researcher's notes on certain containment procedures. I have some other researchers here with me that will be helping with the study. We have Sergio.
Hello.
Dr. Professor Matt.
Yes. Hello. We're testing the mantis DNA today, right?
No, that's next week. We also have Professor Kai.
Damn, I wish we were testing the mantis right now.
All right, and Mantis test subject number 1, our special guest for this episode of So You Think You Can Contain, Protect Securely, is Phoenyx.
I honestly don't know what they hired me for. What's this about Mantis DNA?
You'll find out. Yeah, you'll find out. Don't worry about it.
You might feel a little tingle. A lot of tingle.
I don't like tingle.
A tangle, if you will.
Tingle fucking scares me. Have you ever played Legend of Zelda?
Yes, I have.
I am putting that note down for a off-topic remark about pop culture icon Link Zelda.
And tingle.
We're not here to discuss
Tingles,
pop culture.
Rosie,
Yes,
Rupee
we are here.
Whatever.
We are here to discuss the head researcher, Dr. Locke, and their work in the SCP world. We've gathered quite a few options from their repertoire, their large library of interesting reads, and we're gonna all read them together, like friends.
Who would like
So where
to go
shall
first?
we start?
I don't know.
I think we should start with Matt's
Maybe.
first, because this one's just kind of short.
Okay.
Yeah,
let's do
mine
it.
is pretty short.
All right,
Let's
we'll go
see
with that.
here. 3247. Are we ready?
Yes.
My body is ready.
SCP-3247. Object Class Euclid. Containment Procedures. SCP-3247 is to be contained in an isolated chamber in formerly Site-5, now Area 12's Arachnid Wing. SCP-3247 has shown no need for sustenance or rest, though as per Ethics Committee request, a television has been installed in SCP-3247's cell, along with a selection of silent films. The feeding system for SCP-3247-A has been fully automated and should deposit 20 grams of live crickets on a weekly basis. In the event of a containment breach, personnel are to compel escaped SCP-3247-A instances to take on an immobile form and place them back within their cell. SCP-3247 is a humanoid entity, roughly 1.7 meters in height. The entity wears a striped pullover with suspenders as well as white makeup on its face and exposed skin. Testing has revealed that SCP-3247's clothing and makeup are unable to be removed and are suspected to be a part of the organism. Further testing of SCP-3247's physical properties is hindered by its primary anomalous effect. 3247 is intangible and thus completely incapable of directly interacting with any matter, with the exception of SCP-3247-A instances. 3247 is host to a colony of arachnids, designated SCP-3247-A, which live on and within the entity. 3247-A instances are defensive of SCP-3247 and are easily provoked, and they instinctively swarm organisms in 3247's vicinity. If, however, 3247-A witness a human subject pantomiming or making particular gesticulations, the colony will coordinate to order themselves in a rough approximation of an inanimate object based off of this body language. 3247A will remain in the state for up to 3 hours or until prompted to shift form. While they are in the shape of an object, 3247A take on some of the object's properties and are somehow able to function despite being comprised entirely of spiders. 3247 has to date not attempted to speak to staff, with its attempts at communication being limited to miming actions. 3247 has not expressed discomfort in hosting 3247A, though it does display annoyance due to their mimicry prompted by its own gesticulations, presumably because the use of props is antithetical to 3247's preferred method of performance art.
So they're just fucking mime spiders.
Yes.
Testing log will be as follows, with testing number listed, the gesture or procedure performed, and any procedural modifications, as well as the results of the outcome. Test 3. Gesture was a closed fist with both the thumb and index finger extended. The result was 3247A situating themselves in the form of a handgun. After receiving clearance from control, D11424 was cleared to pick up 3247A and attempted to fire it. It proved capable of firing individual spiders at high velocity.
Amazing.
Test 15. Thumb and index finger pressed together. Remaining fingers extended. The OK hand symbol.
I thought that was a white
Full-
power symbol.
4 dozen 3247A paired off to form what seemed to be marijuana cigarettes. D11424 was successful in lighting and smoking one pair until they were completely reduced to ash. D11424 reported feelings and sensations consistent with the typical effects of cannabis, with the added effect of perceiving all humans as possessing arachnid heads, while within his visual periphery. That's a bad trip. That's a bad trip.
Don't drink the spooder weed.
Test 22. Not applicable. Test was invalidated when D11424 picked at food in his teeth after entering the test chamber. The result was approximately 3,000 spiders emerging. Mass shifted erratically for several moments before taking on a rough humanoid form. The spiders then began to return to SCP-3247, revealing Dr. Rockefeller underneath. Dr. Rockefeller was greeted by on-site staff pleasantly. Conversely, both D11424 and SCP-3247 reacted with confusion and apprehension to his sudden appearance. Dr. Rockefeller proceeded to approach D11424, overpower him in self-defense, and extract his lower second premolar with a handheld can opener. Dr. Rockefeller then took his leave, and the test was concluded.
Also, Dr. Rockefeller himself is an SCP. He's like 5'6".
Okay.
I think most of the fucking researchers are fucking.
Oh, he's like a
SCPs.
dentist, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, he's like, he always tries to look into your mouth. All right.
Interesting.
Test 76, formerly known as the Todd Howard test. We performed a different one in relation to this particular subject. Subject held hands together and wiggled 4 fingers on each hand, pantomiming a spider. The result was roughly 640 spiders emerging from the SCP and divided themselves in groups of 8. Each group then came together in the shape of a larger spider. These groups themselves then merged with 7 other groups to form even bigger spiders. This continued until the last remaining supergroups merged into one enormous spider, made of spiders. It was at this point that D11424 proceeded to ride the resulting mega spider in a fashion similar to Western bull riding. Subject was reprimanded after testing ended, but allowed to stay with the project.
I think I remember that test. I think I was that D class.
Test 133. Subject shadowboxed. A mass of approximately 3,000 spiders emerged from the subject and continued to attack and incapacitate D11424. Guards nearby had to interfere and bring D11424 to the nearest infirmary. Analysis of footage indicates the mass fought at a professional level of boxing. That's terrifying. Test 475. The gesture was the subject pantomiming steering a wheel. The result was an unprecedented number of spiders emerging from the SCP and arranging themselves in the shape of a sedan. D11424 was reprimanded for refusing to get inside in order to attempt to start it. D11424 responded to control by making a masturbatory hand gesture, to which SCP-3247A responded by dismantling themselves and forming approximately 200 phalluses.
That was you, wasn't it? I've heard so much about you, Spider Dick Man.
Holy shit.
That was good.
I like
that
it.
was quite funny. I
Thanks,
must admit.
Dr. Locke.
I think what sets this one apart from like the one that's just Among Us is that at first it doesn't appear to be funny, but then he finds a way to make it funny.
At
Yes.
first, there's nothing. At first, it's terrifying.
So many
Until it's
spiders.
really, really funny.
It's all about the spiders.
Yeah, bro.
Because see, I got like the like in my hand, like in my mind, I'm like, oh, you could make it to make firearms, but then you go to the testing log and realize that the firearms would just shoot spiders and other more
Could be a little
less
terrifying.
ridiculous.
Imagine pantomiming like pulling out a blade or something like that and just having spider sword.
I think my favorite one is the boxing one. He just tries to shadow box and then it beats the shit out of him.
All I can imagine is that the spiders form quickly and just fucking give him a right hook and he's instantly down.
I mean, you'd
I think
know
my
you
favorite
were
part about
that you were that fucking D class, weren't you?
I think my favorite part is
I
like
don't know, these amnestics fucked up my brain.
he wasn't even trying to box the SCP. He just started shadow boxing, and the spiders independently decided they wanted to beat the shit out of him.
As spiders often want to do.
I mean, they were challenged, bro.
He was threatening.
They're too powerful.
Do you think the spider phalluses come more spiders?
Probably.
Yes.
Maybe
Do
they
we,
Yeah,
need
should
to
definitely.
ask, do we really need to ask that question?
I feel like these
For
spiders
science.
are reptilian in nature and just make mating balls.
I don't know about this, man.
Test 476. Subject was asked to touch the spider phallus. Result: normal secretions of a phallus were instead replaced by smaller, more numerous spiders.
Test was aborted.
Test immediately aborted.
Figuratively and literally.
So who would like to go next?
All right, I guess I'll go.
Go
Okay.
for it.
So instead, I actually chose one of their SCP tales that they wrote instead of a usual, standard procedure SCP. So figured we covered more of their repertoire, get a little bit more of their bases. So this one is titled Not Fade Away.
Mm.
The old water tower on the outskirts of the shitheel town has been I don't know how to say that word.
Derelict.
Derelict. Thank you. For ages. It's amazing they haven't torn the damn thing down yet. I reach up for the next rung, which groans in response to the unexpected weight, before snapping off entirely. I managed to catch myself at the last second, but my GoPro isn't so lucky. It makes a soft plop in the snow below.
There goes my perfect fucking selfie.
It wasn't a close call, though. I take a second to catch my breath before I steel my nerves and continue my ascent. Can't turn back now. Stick to the plan. You're going to be remembered for this. I clamber onto the platform, and I'm greeted with an oversized grin, the rival school's idiotic mascot. Its face is withered and peeling. Good thing he's about to get a brand new paint job. Now all I need to do is decide exactly how many dicks I should add. Time to get to work.
Spider dicks.
One more over
Beginning
here.
to notice a trend.
Oh, let's have one splooging all over it. Pink? The fuck did I think it was going to do with pink paint? Give him some missing teeth. Oh, look just like those inbred jackoffs. A little bit more and done. I stand back and admire my creation in all its glory. In just a few hours, people wake up to their beloved avatar being assaulted by a group of floating penises, as if it were the star of a haunted bukkake. Now, all I need to do is snap some pics for the guys to prove that, yes, I am that fucking badass. I whip out my cell and get to work laminating the fact that I can't post these online. Oh, sorry, not laminating, lamenting. My God, I'm fucking dumb-brained. Thinking about spiders. If only so I can. Hashtag Picasso. It's as good a time as any for a smoke. I spark one and look out over the woods that surround the town. Last night's snowfall blanketed the landscape, leaving a pristine coat of white that went on for miles. I could see the lake off in the distance. From my vantage point, I could clearly see over the privacy fence that encircles it. As the early morning fog began to dissipate, I could even see the water's surface and... What the fuck is that? I cup my hands over my eyes, as if make-believe binoculars could somehow improve my vision, and lean over the railing. There's definitely something bobbing above the surface. Fuck. Looks like there's someone out there. That can't be right.
It is.
They closed the lake off ages ago.
To keep it hidden.
Something about an undertow?
Lies.
Fuck. Well, it's not my problem if some random nobody gets themselves killed.
They're closer to you than you think.
As much as I want to turn away, I can't.
Because you want to know the truth.
I'm frozen to the spot, precariously hanging over the railing. There's something about them, something familiar.
Don't you remember?
The redhead.
Katie Lawson.
We met in home ec class. She was always so patient and caring.
She still cares.
Took a trip with me and several of our classmates over the summer to check out the new Space Mountain. Shared our first kiss during the fireworks display on the third night. I made some dumb promises I knew I couldn't keep.
There's still time. Doug Garner.
A total blast to have around. Always wanted me to tag along on his misadventures.
You didn't want to be all alone.
Got caught sneaking in to see Jaws. I managed to get away before the cops showed up. He wasn't so lucky. Never sold me out either.
And risk losing you.
He always had my back.
Don't let him down. Ben Ward.
Lived across the street from me our entire lives. I could never ask for a better friend. We began drifting apart once he started getting pretty deep into his schoolwork. Every once in a while, he'd stop by just to chill. Last time we talked was when he treated me to Queen's show at the Paramount back in April. Fell backwards, reeling from a mix of vertigo from the heights, lightheadedness from the cigarette, and a sudden splitting migraine. Pressed my palms into my eyes, trying to get my head straight. Can't even focus on myself now, though. There's people down there. They need my help. Without even bothering to clean my evidence. I'll be back for it later. I dropped to the ladder and began climbing down. It's a quiet ride on my bike to the path that leads to the lake, and a crunchy one for the last mile or so. The only sound other than me plodding through the snow are the occasional gusts of wind screaming through the trees.
No, not the wind.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Danger. Drowning hazard. Areas off limits. Little signs like this were posted everywhere.
It's to keep you out.
I disregard them and trek on. I can't abandon my friends now. It's funny, even though the sun is coming up, it seems to be getting colder.
It's always cold. That's why.
Barbed wire? Fuck, that's right. How the hell am I supposed to get over this? Wait a minute. That bush. Like there's a wall, a hole behind it. Going right under the fence.
Please.
On my hands and knees, I crawl through. I can see it now.
Can you see them?
Can you see us?
Can you see us?
Can you see us? They can see you.
We can
See.
Dear, it's. Dear God.
Do you
Remember us.
Do you remember me?
after everything?
It's everyone I know, every one of you. All my friends, my family, still others I don't recall in full. You shouldn't be here. Why? How can this be? I have to get you out of here. I won't let this go on. The freezing water is around my ankles now. With each step, I can feel the ground below getting further away, up to my thighs. I'm already shivering. My heart begins to drop. Something is wrong.
Help us, please. What about all these years? You promised.
Nothing.
You promised.
Promise. We need
Always look out for you. Remember us. You promised.
I'm slowly moving out towards them. I can help. It doesn't have to be this way. We can all make it out of here, up to my chest. I can't shake the creeping dread from being in such deep water. When I was a child, an ill-advised cannonball sent me plummeting to the bottom of my uncle's pool. I freaked. I couldn't move. I flailed about in a panic, trying desperately to gain vertical ground to no avail. I thought I was going to die. Someone got down in time to fish me out, but ever since then, I've had a horrible phobia of water. In fact, I've never actually learned how to swim.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
It's okay.
Don't leave us here.
You can learn.
You promised.
Up to my neck.
Please.
It's too late now. I can't find the bottom. I can't gain a footing. I'm choking on the water. I'm starting to flail again.
We've waited so long. All right.
Okay. You've done so much.
Wasted.
We could have been so.
In their arms
Wasted.
now. I can see their faces. I recognize all of them. I know all of them. We're finally together. They've been waiting for me for so long.
So long.
How could I have forgotten?
For so
Forgotten.
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 Why would they do that to us?
Us.
Why would
How
they
could
do
they-
that to
Us.
They can't leave us here.
How could they?
You can't leave me here.
They can't.
Us here.
Don't forget
Can't
me.
leave us here.
That links to SCP-2316.
Everyone, say repeat
I
after
do
me.
not recognize the
I
bodies
do
in
not
the water.
recognize the bodies in the water.
I
I do
don't.
not recognize the bodies in the water.
I do not recognize the body in the
I do
water.
not recognize
I'm
the
not
bodies
sure if we
in
would
the
like
water.
to read this, but that is definitely something that we could add to the to continue list. I don't believe
Have you guys
I
ever
know.
read 2316 before?
No, I read it while we were.
I've
reading
heard
it.
memes about it, but not really.
Yeah, I watched a video on it earlier. This is part of a series called the Class of 76. Basically, there's like this high school class of 76, obviously, and like a bunch of anomalous shit happens to all of them. And this SCP-2316 is basically like obviously like from the story, you approach the lake and you start like seeing like it has a mimetic effect that makes you see like your loved ones. And you're like, oh, I gotta save them, but then you just
Damn.
get added to it as you drown. Which is why throughout the thing the trigger phrase is
not
you were to say
recognize
I
the
do not
bodies in the
recognize the
water."
bodies in the water.
I do not
I do
recognize
not
the bodies in the
recognize
water.
bodies in the water.
Yo, oh shit, is that? Yo, shit, is that Matt?
He's been compromised.
He's been compromised.
No.
Matt, you know what to do.
I cannot. I don't have
Damn.
my funny mic sounds.
Yeah, I was gonna say hit him with the
Hit
Gmod
them with fart
death
with
sound effects.
reverb.
Fart with reverb. No.
That was awesome.
That was
Sorry, bro, this
good.
voice mod is fucking my neck.
Maybe we'll have to check out the class of 76 ones in a.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I also think we were all on the same wavelength with doing this. Like I was like, should we repeat? No. If we
Yeah,
repeat,
we all
it
kind of had the
adds
same
to it.
hive mind on that one. And I really enjoyed that. I kind of
Me
want to delve
too.
deeper into the Tales SCP stuff because I think those are really fun.
Yeah.
think there's some good stuff in there.
Should I curve this dramatic stuff, which was
Yeah,
Sure.
my
sure.
SCP that I have chosen?
Sure. I also I would like to bestow not fade away with the highest honor
What is
Sergio can bestow.
Yo, the
Yeah.
certified hood
Hood
classic.
Hood
Oh
classic.
god,
Certified
Hood
hood classic.
classic.
man, I'm gonna bestow that.
So far,
Yeah,
this guy is a pretty
I
varied
mean, I
writer.
definitely
very
appreciate the
good.
fact that they are able to do so many different like styles, and I also think that it's very wise that they are able to like even the horror stuff kind of add in a little bit of funnies here and there. One of the ones that I was going originally to do because my friend Nick decided to help me out and pick out one was SCP-F, not F 5999, and that has audio to it, and it also is very, very unique. I would highly recommend that you check that out on your own in particular. But please, without further ado, please read the document that you have brought with you.
Yeah. Before I start reading this, in the entirety of the SCP universe, it is one of my most favorite anomalous manufacturers, Dr. Wondertainment. I love anything made by that funny little dude. Anyways, SCP-2923, Object Class, Safe, Special Containment Procedures. Instances of SCP-2923 are to be locked in used to be Site-5, but Site-11's anomalous item storage locker. This locker is accessible via doubly redundant recard access locks restricted to personnel with 2 out of 2,923 clearance. Following Incident 2923-02, testing has been suspended. Description: SCP-2923 is a collection of protein bars, 1 through 12, each of which produce a variety of anomalous effects in humans once consumed. The named Dr. Wondertainment's protein power-up bars are printed on the wrappers of each substance, along with a listed flavor. A short blurb advertising the item is located on the undersides of the wrappers. Dazzle your friends, frighten your enemies with Wondertainment for real superpowers are but a bite away. Now you too can experience the thrill of saving the day. 12 amazing flavors with incredible powers. Incident Report SCP-2923-1. A box containing 144, 12 of each instant, bars of SCP-2923 was found on Dr. Ackles' doorstep on October 12, 1986. A temporary corruption of the security 2 o'clock to 2:05 hindered investigation origin of the package, and no fingerprints of DNA were left behind during the delay. Dr. Ackles contacted containment personnel. Excerpt from testing log. Flavor number 11. Mental Meringue. 6 minutes after ingesting the substance, D-Class 966 began to complain of hearing dozens of voices. Contents of their speech limited to half-format sentences, self-conscious inquiry, snippets of popular songs, and inane conversation with perverse statements. Repeated testing yielded results, though on the 7th trial, D-Class 9205 became privy to information regarding a Thaumiel class object. All protein bar number 11 subjects were terminated due to the possibility of an internal information. Protein bar number 3. Pyrokinetic pineapple. 5 minutes after consuming the substance, subjects began excessively perspire. The subjects then spontaneously erupt into flame. Death ensues within minutes, and the anomalous effect ceases. Analysis of the has revealed that the subject's sweat glands began producing
triethylborane.
Scientific chemical.
Triethylborane.
Triethylborane. I can't pronounce shit. I can't read. During the last test of this flavor, the subject did in fact prove to be flame. Unfortunately, this subject expired due to the flame all available oxygen.
Hey, Phoenyx.
Yeah?
Can I read the last one in this? I still want it.
You can read the last one.
Okay.
I love the last one in that. All right, protein bar number 5, X raisin. Subject reported to be capable of seeing through surrounding materials, and testing revealed their eyes to be emitting ionizing. Over the next few days, the subject was rendered blind as a result to damage to their corneas. Protein bar number 9, temporal toffee. No effects were visible 20 minutes after consumption. D-Class 7473 was then instructed by the intending to attempt to travel 1 minute into the D-Class 7473 vanished from the testing area after a brief and did not reappear. Subject was later located by researchers at Stationed Lunar Area 32, approximately 4,000 kilometers from Earth.
Oh, I get what happened. He moved. He did. He moved in time, but he didn't show up at the same because the Earth is moving. His
So he
space.
just now I see.
Yeah,
see.
his spatial
That's funny.
position didn't change, so the Earth had left the spot, and then he was in space.
Protein bar number 6, Peanut Brawler Crunch. This subject underwent a rapid increase in muscle mass, gaining over 100 kilograms in a matter of seconds. This experience caused the subject's epidermis to stretch and rupture in several areas, and the subject expired due to blood loss. Protein bar number 4, Coconut Cream Pie Beam. Subject reported an unfamiliar ocular sensation, and after a moment of concentration, the subject produced a concussive energy blast from her eyes. The recoil from said blast was sufficient to snap the subject's neck, killing her instantly. Number 7, Yummy Gummy Taffy Toffee. Subject displayed an extreme full body malleability into several knots and shapes. The subject attempted to determine the limits capability by flattening and stretching her body along the northern wall of the testing chamber. Subject proved unable to resume form and expired a short time later. Cause of death appeared to be a result of ischemic hypoxia.
Ischemic.
Reduced
That's,
brain oxygen
hypoxia.
caused by inadequate
Isn't that
blood flow
the-
to the brain.
Finally, number 1, the mock mallow. Data expunged. It took several days for all traces of the subject to be removed from the chamber.
I want that one.
That's I don't.
I want to go
don't touch
fucking
mock mallow.
fast. Time to go fucking fast.
I got it right here.
Oh no.
Time to go fast.
All right. Incident Report SCP-2923-2. The following note was found within the containing physical copies for SCP-223 test logs in Site-11 secure. To our dearest friends in the Foundation, on behalf of Wondertainment and children the world over, we would like to formally thank you. It was only through rigorous product testing that we at Wondertainment may ensure the safety of our fine customers. As your organization has been a wonderfully major supporter in the past, don't think we know who has our full supply of Gusho, Squisho, Squeez'em, Smack'em, Twisty, Tutti, Fruity, Retro, Casual Gummy Worms, and due to you employing the largest amount of Declassian class in this or any other plane, we figured it's high time we rewarded your patronage. Yay! Friendship! Why, if it weren't for the wonderful testing prowess of your absurdly egg-headed misters and missuses, who knows what harm might befall our innocent consumers. Now, with some minor modifications, we may finally release our protein power-up bars to delight of children everywhere. We eagerly look forward to working with you again. Ever in wonder, Berkshire Schwash, head of the Sweets and Consumables Department of Wondertainment. A investigation into the theft of SCP-2923 revealed that Site-11 has been infiltrated by an unknown entity. Security footage suffered the same deterioration previously documented at Dr. Ackle's residence. Personnel within Site-11 were questioned and gave conflicting reports. Through the entity's physical gender and race varied. It was uniformly reported to be a level 5 researcher by the name of Dr. Kaish. This was confirmed false, as no upgraded security measures have supplemented, and Mobile Task Force XI-196 have been briefed on SCP and its potential future production and
That was good.
circulation.
Which one would you guys like to
That
have?
was nice.
I'm a.
Peanut butter, peanut brawler crunch.
Well, obviously, I want to be showered in coconut cream pies.
Also,
what'd be
does
really
anyone get
scary?
the reference of it being XI 1964? Willy Wonka's publishing date.
Yeah, I was about to
Oh
say.
yeah,
Willy
Slugworth.
Wonka.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. I
Because it's
recognize it now.
Slugworth.
I just had a
What?
really scary thought. If Nick
What?
lost all of his fat, he could eat the peanut brawler crunch and not die.
Holy shit.
He'd have the
It's
skin.
gonna be so powerful.
Oh Jesus!
Fucking ripped.
I'll
100 kilograms.
I would
That's a
also like the
football
peanut
player in
brawler
muscle.
crunch.
That's
I
a
think that would
whole
be
ass
pretty
football
good.
player. Kai, you'd explode. You would literally explode. You wouldn't have an epidermis problem. You'd just explode.
beep.
Yeah, that's
The
my
mock
favorite
mellow
out of
is
all
really
of them.
fucking funny.
I think the funniest thing
No.
is it doesn't even say he went fast. It just says
He is
That's
he
pretty
went everywhere.
fast.
I mean, it makes you go fast. It just doesn't specify which direction.
I think my current theory for it is it lets you do what the Flash does, where you can vibrate your atoms, but they don't
Honestly,
stay together.
Yeah, it's like the Flash vibrating as atoms, except you can only do it in one direction, so they just shoot off.
I want to believe that they make the microwave sound effect when they eat the marshmallow.
All right.
I think Kai should
Anyhow.
go next. I will go
Yeah.
last because of mine.
Okay. Would anyone like to read the access stuff? Like the stuff in the green and yellow text?
Matt, you've been reading them all, so you got to do it.
Welcome to
Sure.
SCP database.
Okay.
SCP-3280. And I
Dig
clicked
in
the
the,
information bar, but we don't need that.
Dig in the SCP dark mode right now.
Yes, it's very good. It is a dark and stormy night. You've spent the last several hours hiding in the broom closet with naught but the rank water of the mop sink to sustain you. The chaos has long since died down. It's time to make a break for it. You slowly open the door. Lightning strikes, offering a brief reprieve from the sullen darkness of the site's empty halls. Stepping cautiously over the body of Dr. Cawthorne, you do your best to remain silent. There's no way of knowing how it hunts. Best to take every precaution. In the distance, a blood-curdling scream drowns out the rolling thunder. It is mercifully cut short. The steady thrum of raindrops once again takes prominence. At the very least, you're heading in the other direction, to the security office. Nichols is sprawled out backwards in his seat in front of the control center, gutted from throat to crotch, spilling viscera onto his lap that drips onto the linoleum. You slide his seat aside and enter your credentials into the terminal.
Welcome to SCIP Netbase. Access file SCP-30. Accessing file SCP-3280.
Another flash of lightning.
Please wait.
Out in the hall. Your eyes dart towards the door, paranoid, dreading, anticipating. It could be anywhere.
File found. Opening SCP-3280.
Note,
Clearance level
due to your
0.
clearance level, some information may be withheld or incomplete. Item number SCP-3280. Object class Redacted. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-3280 is to remain in its place at its point of origin in the defunct Johnston Labs and Pharmaceuticals Research Center, which has been seized by the Foundation. Containment liaisons are in the process of devising long-term containment solutions for 328. Should 3280 reach the entrance to Sublevel 2, the site will enter a security lockdown, making entrance and egress impossible. Do note that this will also activate Blackout Protocol, ensuring that no hazardous or sensitive information is broadcast from the site. This will be necessary to prevent a full containment breach and failure of the third mission Protect goals. Description: data expunged. And then there's a picture of lightning that says Redacted. But of course...
Redacted.
Oh, what?
Very spooky
Very
lightning.
spooky. I agree.
Very spooky lightning.
As someone who is afraid of lightning, it is pretty spooky. But of course, despite the repeated assurances that your security upgrade was in the process of being implemented, you are still level 0 and thus effectively worthless as far as Overwatch is concerned. The file, though, was that image even right? You've glimpsed the file previously. Surely it... No. That cannot be right. No time to be worried about something so inane. However, you need to get in. The faint drip, dripping of Nichols reminds you of his presence. Gingerly, you finger about his body, feeling for his security lanyard in the dark. It's wedged beneath him, but you're able to slide it out and detach it from the loop. Thankfully, Nichols was the type of person to scrawl their password on the underside of their clearance cards, as you discover upon turning it over in your hands. You approach the terminal with renewed vigor.
Welcome to SCIPnet database. Security clearance level 2 accepted.
This is definitely
Access
helpful.
security footage.
You don't want to miss the opportunity to size up whatever it is that's out there. You need to see it with your own eyes.
Y. Accessing. Select the feed you would like to view. Access.
Researcher
2F
Jensen
barracks.
has hanged himself with a makeshift noose from a nearby bunk. A lightning flash illuminates a puddle beneath his corpse.
Access.
Dr.
2F
Emmanuel stumbles
East
listlessly
Wing.
throughout the darkened hallway. At the sound of thunder outside, he clutches his gut and collapses.
Access.
The first
1F
floor appears to be flooded.
entrance.
It seems that several people had attempted to break out through the front door, despite the security measures rendering the site inescapable. As they are all face down, you do not recognize the bodies in the water.
Access.
A man in an orange
Sub-level
jumpsuit
2.
lays dead in the corner of the basement. A pipe on the near wall has burst and is steadily leaking onto the concrete floor.
I guess Darkside Film never did figure out that jump puzzle in Half-Life. Access.
It is
1F
difficult to tell how many
cafeteria.
staff were present here. All that remains, aside from the errant clothes bobbing about the surface of the water, is a pinkish slurry pooling under the windows. It's the same all over the site, the dead and the dying, everywhere you look. Whatever caused this, whatever's lurking in these halls, remains to be seen. This isn't getting you anywhere, and it's getting harder to think, or...
Access file. SCP-3280.
Note,
Accessing
due to your
file.
clearance level, some information may be withheld or incomplete. SCP-3280, Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. 1 D-Class personnel is to be deposited into Sublevel 2 per week through Subterranean Access Point Gamma. They are to be presented with misleading information concerning the nature of 3280 and instructed to progress to the lowest level of the facility. They are to be equipped with a flashlight as well as a security baton for self-defense. An ultrasonic transmitter is to be sewn into their clothing, which will broadcast a frequency capable of drawing 3280 to their location upon accessing the deepest area of the sub-level. This should, and this text is gone, basically. This should draw 3280 away from the sublevel's entrance to its preference for live prey. Getting harder to keep focus. Failure to contain 3280 in this manner will result in full lockdown of Site 5, and this is crossed out. Personnel are to be reminded that there is no Site 5, as has been the case in every single one of these SCP stories so far. MTF Loda 12, the silencers, and Tau 4 water everywhere will be immediately dispatched to contain the threat. Should 12 hours pass without Overwatch receiving an all clear from these teams, all sites are to enact emergency measures in preparation for an imminent XK scenario. Description: SCP-3280 is a sapient entity composed of a fluid physically identical to water, capable of traveling at approximately 2.5 kilometers per hour. Non-anomalous water introduced to 3280 will be incorporated into its mass, and removed samples prove to operate identically. At the time of its discovery, the entity was approximately 66.4 liters in volume. It is currently estimated to be approximately 2,500 liters. The entity is hostile to human life. 3280 will seek out humans within its vicinity, forcing its mass into open orifices. 3280 is also readily absorbed through the pores. The affected experience symptoms such as loss of motor control, weakening of micturition reflex, visual hallucinations, and abdominal pain. I didn't actually look up what this was before.
Also, I was gonna. Thank you for noticing that that all of his SCPs mentioned Site 5 and that doesn't exist. I was like, oh, what's happening at Site 5? And then oh, this is Site 5.
And this is the bladder to bladder contraction reflex. That's what the micturition reflex. Almost as if on cue, you feel a churning in your own stomach. 3280 displays claustrophobic behavior, violently expelling itself from confined spaces or containers, such as vials or test subjects. 3280 will constrict its mass, lashing out in pressurized bursts, exceeding oh my god, I can't read numbers today. 255. Is this megapascals, rendering all attempts of physical containment or transportation impossible. When not hunting living prey, 3280 will attempt to exit the underground level it is currently contained within. Thus far, 3280 has been kept away from the sublevel's entrance. It is believed that if 3280 learns that it is sealed within the sublevel, it could instigate a violent response from the entity, irrevocably breaking containment. 3280's escape from the site would constitute an XK class end of world scenario once it becomes incorporated into the planet's cycle. Contingency measures include the roiling in your stomach becomes unbearable. You recoil backwards away from the monitor. You drunkenly stumble, struggling against the thing inside of you, out into the hallway. The storm outside rages. Torrents of raindrops spatter across the windows. You fall against the wall, face pressed against the cool glass. It is only in those final seconds, as the water wells up to your throat and expands, that you notice the raindrops streaking towards your face in defiance of gravity.
Wow.
You know, every time I read a horror story from S.D Locke, I am left going, oh
Me
shit,
too.
oh god, oh fuck.
They are extreme. I mean,
Yeah, this
for
guy's
good
really
reason.
good.
They had it. I mean, they have a SCP-001.
Yes.
And to help add on to this, the XK scenario is basically just a general end of the world scenario.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Because especially with the one I'm going to read, which is his 001 proposal, which is another very bleak end of the. I like because at first, like when I was reading that, I was like, because my initial thought is like, he's up against a window, it's gonna burst out of his face and break the glass, but not even like the genius is not that he writes like, oh yeah, your head explodes and it bursts out the window, but the moment of the raindrops. That's the perfect little cue to signal that it's broken containment, rather than like the do not show. Approach,
just for general, there is currently 5 XK scenarios. There is XK, which is just an end of the world. CK, which is a dominant shift, where the new species becomes the dominant beings on Earth. The ZK scenario, which is a reality failure, where reality ceases as we know it. The GH scenario, or dead greenhouse, where nearly all life is extinct, even though Earth survives. And LK, which is humanity restructuring, which is humanity remains with minor or sustainable losses, but altered into a form that is no longer baseline human. Yeah, there's a lot of K scenarios. They're really interesting. There is a ton of SCPs that use it.
Yeah, I always feel like they're coming up with new ones every time I read an SCP.
Hey, you're allowed to.
Just an amazing creative tool.
I think what I like about the way this guy writes is it's all simple. Like, none of these are very complicated. In fact, they're all decently short, I would say.
Yeah,
he also
I
doesn't
like
really
that.
redact all that much.
Redaction
Yes,
is...
thank God. I hate it when people redact too much.
Dude, it just feels like that just most authors just like, I don't really want to get into detail with
and
this,
what she's able to do is just a lot of really clever work. And using... Because it's all simple, it allows you to be more horrific with it, at least in my eyes.
Yeah, it's very cosmic.
Yeah, because
Like, you think about existence.
like the best part is like you know what it's going to happen, and I feel like if you're in a scientific research area, having important information redacted that would help people live might not be the best idea.
And again, this is a fucking SCP Foundation.
Yeah.
They're kind of retarded.
Well, I mean, the whole thing. This person was
Yes,
level
they were supposed to be
0 initially,
upgraded.
so they couldn't know about it.
Yeah.
One more thing that Oh, go ahead.
But even then, it looks like I was gonna say it looks like this. It didn't even matter if they knew it. It was
Yes.
already too late.
Yeah, this was already definitely happening. It was definitely already an end of the world scenario, whether they liked it or not.
Because like it says the man in the orange jumpsuit lays dead in the corner of the basement. That was the D class that got sent down to attempt to send it somewhere. But then a pipe burst, and then you have the doctor clenching his gut and collapsing, and then you have the doctor that tried to kill himself because it was inside of him because it mentions the puddle underneath.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that the person talking was not initially infected until he rummaged for the key card.
Because of the like dripping of the blood.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it mentions that it goes to the pores. You don't have to get it in your mouth.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I wanted to mention that the prose is also very good. And I think it especially shined in this one, and then the tales that we read of Michael's.
It's very creative writing.
Well then, Sergio, you have your hand raised this entire time. Should we get on to you? Is it time?
Well, I had the hand raised to mention the Site 5 thing, but then I just said it afterwards. But he noticed that my hand was up.
Fair.
So I guess it's time to end things off with my SCP. It's just S.D Locke's proposal. I'm pretty sure anybody who knows about SCP knows about this one. It's when day breaks. It is the sun was a deadly laser. The sun is a deadly laser.
The sun is a deadly laser.
I noticed it on the 3280 page, but so there's obviously when day breaks, which is the proposal, and then there's after the storm, which is 3280, and then there's made of clay, but there isn't a hyperlink to it. I don't know if he's still writing that or it's already been written and it's just one of these other
it might be
ones
another
here.
person because SCP like it that or it is still them and they are just continuing to write. Might be something we can ask them.
Yes, write that down.
Yes, and then he'll be and then he'll be like, "You idiots! It's actually this one."
We might as well ask.
Sorry, we're dumb. Yeah. All right. All right. Shaggy Dreadlocks' proposal.
Is it a toy? Is it a pet? Is it an alien?
The SCP Foundation has interrupted your standard broadcast to issue a threat-level Apollyon announcement. The SCP Foundation has interrupted your standard broadcast to issue a threat-level Apollyon announcement. This warning is effective immediately and will continue into the foreseeable future. The U.S. government has given the SCP Foundation clearance to issue this alert. The Foundation is dedicated to protecting the public. Updates will be given at the top of every hour. The following instructions are vital to your safety. At this time, the Foundation asks citizens to stay indoors and block out all natural lighting. Due to a fatal meteorological event of unknown origin, an estimated 1 billion casualties have taken place within the first 30 minutes of activation. Stay away from all visual light, 390 to 700 nanometers emitted by the sun. Stay away from all visual light, 390 to 700 nanometers, reflected by the moon. Citizens attempting to travel outdoors must fully cover their bodies in protective clothing, preferably several layers. Cities and man-made structures in general provide the greatest protection. Formerly wooded areas should be circumvented. Travel by foot should be limited as much as possible and is heavily discouraged. Secure and close all entrances and windows to the shelter. Do not look outside. All unusual noises and persons outside should not be investigated. Refuse all requests from outside to come inside.
You find the access tunnel, hidden within a natural cave a mile off the main road. You don't need the key card. The door is ajar. It smells here. It smells like them. Hopefully, they've moved on. You've come so far already. You can't turn back now. There is a slick trail that leads from the cave entrance into the depths of the site. If it's blood or shit or something that's smeared off one of those things, you cannot tell. You make a point to avoid it. You're still receiving the distress signal. It only started broadcasting yesterday. Whoever it is, you pray they're still alive. Your footsteps echo throughout empty corridors. Each footfall sounds, for all the world, like a dozen, as if you're not treading through the dark alone. Elevator is down, so you take the stairs, ending on floor B5, Keter holding. You pass several empty containment chambers. The horrors they once held are long gone, if you're lucky. The trail takes you to an office branching off of the main hall, the source of the signal. The door is cracked open, but stuck. You plant your feet, push with all your might. Something skitters out of one of the rooms to your left, and around the corner before you can get a good look at it. Your first thought is, dog. It was on the ceiling, though. You take refuge in the room, slam the door behind you. It's dark here, you're safe. You take off your jacket and head wrap. It'd be a damn shame to die from something like hyperthermia after all that's happened. The sole operating emergency light rotates in its casing, casting a pale orange glow across the room every other second, as if the room itself had a pulse. There's shelving haphazardly placed behind the door, a barricade. You scan the room, soiled clothes, half-eaten food. Despite the presence of an adjoining restroom, there's excrement in a bucket in the corner. A pneumatic chamber on the northern wall would have been delivering consumable. The trail terminates in the corner of the room, forming a sick puddle. You spot 3 pharmacy bottles. Further inspection reveals them to be various opioids. They're all empty. There's a desk with a computer atop it. Approaching the terminal, you can clearly see the blinking light of the power button. You take a seat, turn it on. He should have grabbed some of that ketamine. I know ketamine isn't an opioid, but it's our go-to drug.
That's not a good phrase to be clipped by either.
Emergency
go-to drug.
No, that's what we're going to be clipping. Guys, we love ketamine.
It's great.
Yeah.
Emergency protocol activated. Clearance level safeguards removed. Full access granted. Secure, contain, protect. Loading. You hear footsteps just outside the door. Every first step comes down heavy. The second drags behind it. A lot more loading. Authenticating. ... 3 dots. A dark shape blots out the light, streaming through the slit between the floor and the doorway. More authenticating. You tense up, waiting with bated breath, praying it will pass. You damn the deafening thumping of your heart for betraying your position. Please wait. The shadow recedes. You breathe a sigh of relief just as the screen comes to life. Opening file. Automated secure system notification code 235. There has been an error in retrieving the current iteration of the SCP-001 file. You are currently reviewing Revision 3. Newer revisions can be accessed at the bottom of this page. We will start with the SCP-001 Revision 1 audio file. Revision 312, updated 1,312 days ago. Item, SCP-001. Object class, Apollyon. There is a picture of the sun and it's red. It's entitled SCP-001, minutes after its activation. Photographer unknown. Special Containment Procedures. Due to its nature, SCP-001 cannot be contained. Survivors of the 001 event are stationed within secure facilities are to remain in contact with one another. Personnel are encouraged to attempt to reach... Not Sci-Fi.
Right.
Sci-Fi doesn't
No
exist.
There is no
right,
Site
guys?
5. No.
I thought there was only a Site 11.
Site 19, by any means, at their disposal. Personnel with knowledge as to the whereabouts of the O5 Council are to relay this information to the Administrator. Survivors attempting to travel outdoors must fully cover their bodies in protective clothing, preferably several layers. Travel by foot should be limited as much as possible. Cities and man-made structures in general provide the greatest protection. Formerly wooded areas should be circumvented. Travel by air is preferable above all other methods. Personnel exposed to SCP-001 are to be considered lost. Compromised personnel are to be abandoned. Euthanization is not to be attempted. Collective instances of 001A that are of formidable size are to be avoided at all costs. Conductive electrical weapons are proven partially effective at immobilizing them. It may be used for self-defense. Incendiary weapons work as well. Cryonic munitions are the most effective thus far. Testing has revealed that 001A is relatively safe to consume. This is only to be considered as a last resort in the absence of other options, as 001A may reconstitute within the digestive system. Only small portions should be consumed at a time to prevent blockage. Personnel stationed at Site 19 are to pursue research concerning off-world colonization. Shuttles must be constructed as to not allow light to penetrate the interior. Note from the Administrator. To those of you with families or, God forbid, children, I'm deeply, deeply sorry. You must push on. Do not let their deaths be in vain. We do still have time. Humanity may still have a future. Come to Site 19. We need all the hands we can get. Learn to embrace the darkness, friends. Fear the light. The Administrator. Description. SCP-001 is the designation given to the Sun after an event on system error, data lost, resulting in 6.8 billion casualties within the first 24 hours. This event has been categorized as an XK Delta class solar singularity scenario. The SCP-001 effect does not seem to result from exposure to ultraviolet rays, but rather light in the visual spectrum. This effect is similarly present in moonlight. In contact with visible light produced by the sun, living organisms liquefy at the point of contact, with the effect spreading until the entire organism is converted. Visually, this is reminiscent of melting wax. The time this takes is largely dependent on the level of exposure and size of the organism. Despite this restructuring, at no point do living organisms perish. Upon completion, these organisms, 001A, take on a gelatinous consistency. Motile organisms will attempt to orient themselves in a fashion reminiscent of their previous form, to varying degrees of success. Flora typically remain physically inert, yet are still capable of photosynthesis and still produce oxygen. Organisms capable of flight lose the ability to do so. Fauna remain sentient and display behavior that parallels their non-anomalous counterparts when not absorbed into a collective instance. Humans retain a modicum of sapience and memory. Biological anomalies exposed to 001 are affected in the same manner. It seems that exposure nullifies any previously expressed anomalous characteristics. Due to their composition, 001A that make contact with one another may combine and blend at the molecular level. This does not seem to cause any pain or distress to the instances, though the resulting bulk can inhibit movement. Since 001 event, most instances have congregated into such collectives, which seems to possess no maximum volume. Resulting biomass is amorphous and chaotic. The component organisms will shift between a full to semi-liquid state. Limbs and bodies will rise periodically from within the mass for a short duration, before deteriorating and being subsumed by another life form. Collective instances will locomote by using their appendages in tandem to carry their mass. Larger instances will form a pseudopod with their constituent life forms, and drag themselves about in a manner similar to amoeba. Open attached audio file. Audio log. Access granted. A harsh static lashes out of the speakers when you open the file. It disturbs the stillness of the room and catches you off guard and quickens your heart's pace. There's some handling noise as the recorder adjusts their microphone. A brief moment of silence passes, and then
This is Dr. Logan Searcher.
there's a quiver in her voice that portrays her attempts at professionalism. She pauses, takes a deep breath, and continues.
Due to Site 46 possession of several communicable hazards, we have been cut off from the rest of the network under blackout protocol. As such, I'll be updating as we come across new information. On the bright side, we're actually still receiving transmission from a good number of personnel have made it seems. Some are planning to make a break for 19. Some are trying to fight the dash as site is sealed for the time being. we're not ready for the journey. We've experienced one of the higher maintenance son of a bitch compromised continent on a half a dozen Keter. They didn't make it more before collapsing in a suit. I watched it play out on the cam. It didn't take long for them to get back up. Not exactly a designated smoke. Commander, and well, we did learn a thing or two. There's only a few of us. I'm holed up in one of the offices. Jerry and Director Phil, Clyde and a few D. Hey, hon, how you holding up there? I'm doing just fine, Poopsykins. I want you to know I love you bunches. Who? Knock it off and put her on, damn it. What's wrong? Nothing. I just wanted to check in real quick. Ari, please. I'm fine, babe, really. I can take care of myself. No, I know that. I know. I can't help it, though. I know coming here was never... Logan continued. And with everything going on, Ari interrupts her. Hey, you told me you quit smoking. There's a ruckus. Uh-oh. No, of course not. I mean, I did stop. Ari doesn't sound... I don't think I'm the one you need to... I haven't even thought of touching. And the guys are sitting around. I'm tucked in the corner with my note practically here. Sweetheart, penning a sonnet about my undying love at this time? I'm flattered. An elegy at the moment. I feel like I don't keep... I'll go crazy locked down. Moment of silence. Then a match strike followed. And that's all of us. Else was either topside during the director's orders are... We got zeros. God knows. We still have electricity. It's stocked with enough supply. We're gonna be fine for transmission.
Nothing was fine. Nothing was fine at all. There's nothing fine about this. Also, Phoenyx, you do not understand the level of pain that we feel when we hear the
God,
sentence
don't-
love YouTube. Babe.
Don't remind me.
Bib.
Bip.
Beb.
Bib.
For context,
Beb.
other D-class listening in on this, before you are euthanized, you are to listen to all of Chain of Memories.
Oh god. Fate worse than death.
I've only heard fucking more torture none fucking.
All right, so we have another revision. 512 updated 1202 days ago. Item number 1, object class of Polyon. No change to special containment procedures. No changes to the description. Information collapse. However, there's an incident report. They've just been sitting out there this whole time, calling out to us, begging for us to come inside. The noise drew in more of them. There's this one mass I'm sure must have a few dozen people, and God knows how many animals rolling around inside it. Screams and bleats and screeches and howls nonstop, louder than all hell. The worst ones make this disgusting moaning, like they're actually enjoying. They're not going to leave so long as they know we're down here. We managed to talk one of the Ds into going out, see if he couldn't draw them away. He was surprisingly okay with the plan. All he asked for was a gun and a single round. He made it out there and one got a hold of him, tried to get his mask off. He managed to work the pistol up beneath his chin in time and got it off. I figured he was lucky. After he fell limp, though, it kept working at his suit, pried off the hood and poured itself inside, began tearing it off of him from within. He came back, started changing, dripping out of the suit and screaming and screaming and screaming. They won't even let us die. The director has a plan. There's an escape tunnel hidden in his office. Tram under the site will take us to a safe house. We should be able to start towards 19 from there. Access SCP-1 Revision 812-1 attachment. As before, no changes were submitted at all, but there's a video file. You see her for the first time. Dr. Agoda is seated where you are now. She has a pained look, her eyes are bloodshot. A large, wet, red-black blotch has formed on her breast pocket. She draws a shuddering breath and parts her lip, says to speak, and stops herself. She bows her head and cries silently. After a minute, she manages to choke out.
The tunnel flowed in through the ceiling, dragging them into the light and ripping off their clothes and...
She reaches into her breast pocket and withdraws a finger. The glint of her wedding ring is visible above the severed portion. She holds it close in cupped hands and runs a thumb across the glimmering band. She sits like this for an eternity, whispering apology after apology, begging forgiveness, lost in the moment. She looks up after some time. There's a look of realization when she sees she's still recording. Before she places the digit back in her pocket, she leans forward as if to turn off the camera when a radio crackles to life. It broadcasts white noise for a few seconds, and then a voice sets you on edge. It's Ari almost. Her voice has taken on the disgusting, gurgling tone characteristic of the affected. Logan's jaw drops. What little color that was left in her face drains. It speaks out again. Logan rummages beneath the desk for a moment and produces a handheld radio. Her hands are shaking. The thing implores her. Its inhuman speech curdles your stomach.
Babe, it's alright. It's a bright, sunny day.
Logan is in tears, her finger hovering just above the call button. The RE thing draws a deep, wet breath and speaks.
Such a beautiful.
Logan withdraws a cigarette with her free hand, followed by a pack of matches. Her shaking thwarts the first two attempts to light it. She swears silently, third time's the charm, and she inhales a quart of it in a single drag. The RE thing continues. Logan begins rocking back and forth.
Even had the band play, and it's us.
Logan hurls the radio across the room. It smashes somewhere off camera. It's still somewhat operational. You can still hear the thing singing. More voices join in on the chorus as the radio slowly loses life. A few, a dozen, then more. They continue singing until the radio mercifully dies. Logan rushes out of her chair and you can hear her vomiting off screen. The video films the empty seat for several minutes before she returns to end the feed. Something isn't right. A lingering, paranoid sensation washes over you. You're being watched. You defensively dart your eyes about, though they take a second to adjust to the darkness beyond the monitor. The emergency light sweeps across the room, stretching and twisting the shadows beyond recognition. The scene spotted. There in the corner, coming out of the puddle. Time slows to a halt. A pair of hands, coated in the lustrous black slime you follow through the hands, are on either side of the sickening pool, as if something beneath the floor is bracing itself, trying to lift itself up. Something inhuman. The head comes next, rising from the muck. Matted hair conceals its face, plastered over it by the mystery fluid action. It stares at you from the corner, which once again falls into darkness. The emergency light continues its journey across the room. It washes over the puddle again, revealing nothing out of the ordinary. There's now an attachment. Dr. Igota appears at the monitor. She's lost weight. Her eyes are bloodshot wide. On the table before her lay a knife, a bowl, and a stack of manila envelopes filled with yellowing pages. Atop the stack is a blood-stained parchment.
Despite the things we have, I've always believed that we would hold the darkness at bay and let mankind flourish in the... Site 19 stopped broadcasting last month. It's getting harder and harder to find. I keep going, and in my mind, that day back in the tunnels, everything that happened. I've gone down there a few times, but it's wrong. The thing on the other side of the door, it isn't her. Not anymore. It sounds like her. It knows everything she knew. This light, it takes your body. What about your soul? You watch her clench. If this works, if I can bring back something the light couldn't reach, I'll post an update here. For now.
We've got a revision data error. There's a new picture of the sun that says it's so warm out there. Item, hurts, object, apologize. SCP-1 should not be contained. SCP-1 event stationed within survivors of the SCP-1 event stationed within secure facilities can never truly be one with another. Personnel are encouraged to get over themselves and stop thinking that they know better. You can't hide down here forever, love. Personnel exposed to SCP-1 aren't people you can just abandon. I didn't ask for you to save me. It wasn't your choice to make. Euthanization is not to be attempted. Conductive electrical weapons, why? Have proven partially effective in mobilizing instances. You couldn't stand seeing me better off. Incendiary weapons tickle. Cryonic munitions are the most effective thus far. Personnel stationed at Site 19 have no regrets. Neither did I. It's never too late. Babe. Description. SCP-1 is the designation given to the sun after we finally became free. The effects are instantaneous, resulting in release from all suffering, until you ripped me away. These changes seem scary, I know. Despite this restructuring, at no point will you die, I promise. Due to their composition, instances of 001A that make contact with one another may combine and blend, and finally exist. This does not cause any pain. Since the 001 event, most instances have congregated in such collectives, which seem to possess no maximum volume. Don't be afraid. The resulting biomass is beautiful. The component organisms will shift in and over, around, through, and in and out, and in and out, and in and out. Limbs and bodies will hold, never letting go. Alias 1. Before deteriorating and being subsumed by another life form. That one that won't is SC5. Collective instances will locomote by just trying to get close to you again. Trying so hard. Let me in. Let me go back. There's a video file attached. Opening it, you see it presents the room that you're in. The feed seems to be coming from one of the security cameras up in the corner of the room. It's dark, but you can just make out Dr. Igota laying on a pile of laundry along the far wall. She's writhing in her sleep. She seems tormented, hurt. She's tossing and turning and mumbling nonsense words. The camera shakes. It lifts upwards for a moment before it focuses in on her again. It starts moving closer, slowly. The speakers come to life, picking up an airy, breathy static. As the camera moves closer to the doctor, it becomes clearer, crisper. It's not merely white noise, but dozens, hundreds of voices whispering unintelligibly over each other. You lean in, press your ear almost against the speaker, trying to discern what it is that's being said. Something strange stands out amidst the discordance. Are you paying attention? This next bit is just for you. You're not sure what to make of it, though. Looking back at the monitor, the camera has come to a halt, inches away from the sleeping doctor. The voices stop. There is no sound. A hand, black and oily and skeletal, reaches out for her, brushes away a lock of her hair. Her eyes shoot open. She recoils in shock. The feed cuts out. New SCP-001 revision updated one day ago. Just an attachment. Dr. Igota appears before you on the screen, looking even worse for wear than she did previously. Her hair is thinning, with large swaths appearing absent from the middle of her head. If they weren't reflecting the soft glow of the monitor, you assume she no longer had eyes, for how deep they recessed into her skull. She stares ahead, unblinking.
Wait, I know I didn't pick up an info hazard browsing the archives. Tested myself for SCP-8673 infection. Negative. SCP-9189 is the only other one that uses print as a vector. Can't be that. I still have all my fingers.
Her lips crack into a broken grin. She looks a leak laugh and displays her trembling hands. What appears to be mostly skeletal remains of a finger is embedded into the flesh of her left hand. In the stump that would have supported her natural ring finger, two wedding bands loosely encircle the digit, laying on top of one another.
I'm not infected. I'm not crazy. I know the ritual worked. I know it's really her and she.
Something catches her attention off screen. She cocks her head, listening.
No, I can't. You're not you. Not the same. Not you. It's not you anymore. Nope. No. She begins rubbing her
temples, repeating herself over and over again. A minute passes. She snaps her head back up and addresses the camera.
It's her, but it's not. What I brought back is still part of 01. No way out. No. There's no hope for a future. God, I can't go on.
She brandishes a handgun.
To risk calling attention to my body.
She opens the desk drawer and deposits the firearm. She raises her gaze and stares into the camera.
Dad?
You open the drawer and pull out the gun. You absentmindedly turn it over in your hands for a moment, wondering where you'll go from here. Site 17, 64. Surely you can't be all that's left. There's a few links to some tales here on those. The computer dings. There's been an update to the file. SCP-001 current iteration updated 1 minute ago. Item number. Saffron skies raise the blazing sun. A chance encounter. Awkward displays. One day, my love, we'd be as one. Object class with two entwined, a set course begun, that frenetic, wild, lustrous haze. Azure skies host the radiant sun. Special containment procedures, above us beaming as we run. Down the aisle, a fervent craze, that day, my love, we became as one. With future unfolded, the life we'd won, commitment and duty. For the family we'd raised, cerulean skies ferry the shimmering sun. Buried, shackled by fate, overrun by ever-growing resent and malaise. Yesterday, my love, as we were one. Now you lie here, the life in you gone. In the dark outside of her rays, crimson skies bear the torch. Our sun today, my love, will be as one. System error. Without your prompting, the page begins playing a video file. You freeze when the image loads. The live feed, looking down at you from behind about a foot away. A skeletal, inky left hand enters the frame, approaching you at a snail's pace. It's missing its ring finger. Without a second thought, you turn and fire in a frenzy, hoping to drive off the specter. Your bullets meet an empty wall. There's nothing there. Second pass before you hear them sloshing wet thuds. I read that as wet chuds. Coming down the corridor, accompanied by a chorus of screams. It slams into the door. Could there be a place to hide? It strikes a second time. What appears to be a face, part human, part something, dribbles in under the frame. Bits of flesh from God knows what oozes in through the sides and reconstitutes into fingers, eyes, feathers. A third. Now it's pressing up against the wood, causing it to sag inwards. With a groan and a crash, the wood splinters. The door explodes open. Hands and arms stretch out of the mass, pulling you up, passing you from one to the next, on and on down the line. They drag you past the empty containment units upwards and through the stairwell, through the halls and towards the tunnel. You're afforded a few precious moments in darkness, and at the end of the tunnel, there is light.
Yeah.
Very, very well done.
Yeah,
Well read.
I've said it
and very
before,
well
but I will
written.
say it again. But when day breaks is my favorite SCP-001 proposal.
Even more than
I mean, it's
McDoctor's?
up there, but the it's all because of that one emergency broadcast thing that was created. It is really impressive, and I actually think it helped improve my enjoyment of this read. I also think just the thought of the sun turning into a deadly laser is incredibly terrifying.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, the sun becoming an SCP is very, very scary. I also I think this was the first SCP-001 I read. I specifically remember being in band and on my phone and reading through SCPs when I wanted to try a number 1, and I stumbled upon this.
Yeah, I'm really thinking about all the other amazing SCPs. I mean, there's just so much out there. At this point, we if we wanted to cover them all, we would need to make another podcast. It's just
We've
Yes.
only
touched the tip of the
cracked the
iceberg.
surface.
Yeah,
It is an infinite well. There will
we have gone
always be
from
more
let's read
SCP
fan
content.
fiction, haha, to let's just talk about fandoms. And I think that this is it's really cool to see really well done work, especially in fiction in general, that has its own kind of lore to it and its own continuity. As you mentioned, Site 5, that whole trend was something that was very common within all of them, and I think that was very interesting to see developed further and further.
Yeah. I think it's the time to say to the audience that we are actually going to be interviewing S.D Locke themselves in the near future, which is why we did this episode, so we could get a idea of their work. And I would say that S.D Locke is a very good author, and that's not just because they're going to be on their show and I'm sucking up to them. We speak our minds here, and my thought is that they are
Fantastic.
really, really good. I didn't really have any complaints with everything that they wrote. If something wasn't necessarily my favorite SCP, it's just simply because of just personal bias. There was no weird prose or over redactions or anything of that sort.
Yeah,
They were
and,
all solidly written.
The main thing that makes them such compelling horror isn't just the fact that everything redacted, it's spooky because of lack of information. I think it's the fact that we have information just enough to get a good idea of it is what's terrifying.
Yeah, there's a phenomena I've noticed with a lot of works of fiction, and particularly internet authors with SCPs, but there's a limit to how much you can get away with just keeping something a mystery.
Yeah.
Having oh, this character is really cool, but you don't know his backstory. Some people, I think, are really convinced for certain mysterious cool characters, you should just never, ever learn their backstory. You shouldn't even write one. I think that's a very shit take, in my opinion. I think you can always explain something explicitly and do it very well. But at a certain point, it gets really, really hard to keep topping just leaving it up to the viewer's imagination, particularly for detailed things.
I think there's a give and take, especially when it comes with things that have a mystery behind them. Sometimes the answer that you give is a lot worse than you just not knowing in the first place.
Yes, but I think that's just because you found a bad answer. I don't think it's because there is no good answer. Some people,
yeah,
I think,
there is a good answer, but usually in certain cases, the answer that the author wrote for you is horrible.
Yeah, but that's a bad answer.
No, I agree with that. But right, my point being, some people that I've known are just emphatically convinced that certain things should never be explained regardless of the... There's basically no... I don't think there was a redaction in Daybreak, was there?
No.
And it's because S.D Locke has distilled the horror. It's not complicated, but it is deep. You feel the microscopic emotional turmoil going on with this kind of existential horror. And then you take a step back and you realize that this happened to 6.8 billion people in the first day. And everybody else has been suffering through it for years. Everybody has had to deal with this shit. Everybody has had to deal with that kind of horrifying reality that the sun is killing people and turning them into monsters. That's just a great premise with great elaboration.
I think that what really sells the, like, at least when the day breaks, is because we are focusing on like the people that are living through it. And I think also this is one of the times where it's not that it's redacted, and that's what's scary about missing information. It's the fact that we don't know exactly what's going on just as much as the people there.
Yeah, like the SCP just doesn't know. They can't know.
Yeah, I think
they're not capable.
I think what really drives the horror in pretty much all of these stories, but especially when day breaks, is that you're focused from the point of view of basically one character, and you're kind of just locked into what's happening to this particular person. And I think that limitation allows you to fully elaborate on like what kind of horrors is going on, but it maintains a specificity that just like gives a lot more emotional weight behind it. Because if you're just going to read a general like SCP description that says like 6.8 billion people died, but then doesn't go into the actual like perspective of one singular character and their loved ones, it's not going to have as much of an emotional and horrific impact. Because I think like the human perspective here is what really makes it terrifying.
Yeah, because if you just said the sun killed 6.8 billion people, I have the most deadly SCP-001, that's what it would amount to if it was just sort of neutrally written. But I think, again, it's the distilling, the
subjectivity,
of the horror elements, keeping it.
I think if we want to like compare this to something else that's like really interesting in horror, this is something I actually take note of because Five Nights at Freddy's is now the hip thing again. But I've noticed that ever since they started like adding to the lore in the sequel, the games are not as good anymore. And I mean, to be fair, there's only so much you could do with a point and click horror game, but like the first game was so terrifying because you were, one, locked into the perspective of one person, but also two, you didn't have a lot of information to go off of as to why things were happening, and you didn't really need to know why things were happening. All you needed to know was that you're in a pizza place late at night and some weird shit is happening. The horror that is like emanating from that isn't the fact that like you have a story to follow. It is now coming from just, you have one person who doesn't know exactly what they're getting into, and now you're going into this kind of weird kind of scenario with them that neither of you have any idea about.
Yeah, I have... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, what makes the first FNAF work so well is its perfect self-insert. You are the character. Everything pertinent you experience as the character, which is quite rare in a lot of cases, with video games in general being able to sell that personal experience so well. And that's why it's so horrifying. Get more and more familiar with that diminishes.
So I have a perfect, just concise statement for why, like, what we're saying makes these things so good. And it's because there's not necessarily a limitation in information. It's a limitation in perspective.
I think that's a good way of describing it.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it, is the author should not limit the information omniscient perspective, but limiting the information biased
makes it feel human.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that's kind of the main meat of like what I like, because I don't really like horror, but I like the like everything behind horror, like the behind the scenes of what makes horror work. Like I like understanding like how that kind of works, and I think just generally, just like now that we've had this discussion, I can again appreciate horror more as somebody who doesn't like it.
Good. Come to the dark side.
I'm not watching your stupid horror movies. Let me just appreciate the artsmanship and craftsmanship that is being currently displayed in front of me. Like Netflix did a documentary series about the behind the scenes of movies, and they did a seasonal one, and they had a lot of horror movies. So of course I watched those because out of curiosity, and I found myself very invested in these.
So you do like horror, then, is what you're saying?
I like horror, but I don't like experiencing horror.
Fair enough. Also, Phoenyx is raising his
Yeah,
hand.
what is it, Phoenyx? Did you shid?
Okay, I just want to say on the topic of horror, I just want to talk about cosmic horror right here, and the fucking cosmic horror. Of
Yes, that's redaction done well, right there.
Yeah.
That's
So
that's
is
comedic
our
form of
collective
redaction.
is our collective like assumption that he just
That's
like
our-
ran into a wall
yeah.
and splat everywhere?
I feel like his atoms just went
Yes.
everywhere. Like they all picked a
Yeah,
direction. and
my
went.
personal theory is he does what the Flash does, and you just start vibrating, and then you just explode.
Big boom. Yeah, I'm really interested. I'm hoping to be there for the interview. If not, at least be there to listen to it, because I'm sure that I will enjoy listening to a perspective of a horror author a little bit more. But yeah, this was fun. I enjoyed talking SCPs. It's very different, and I'm sure that we can probably experience some more cosmic horror for Phoenyx and his beautiful,
Mock-mellow.
wonderful mock mellow hive mind.
Yo, which is scarier? The sun basically forcing our primal instinct, fear of the dark, upon
I
us.
think Mock-mellow,
Or
personally, because I really
Mock-mellow.
like protein bars, so I would definitely fall victim.
Imagine you just eating a protein bar.
You
and then
vibrate
just
so
start
hard you die.
vibrating.
Does anyone else have any final remarks that they want to say?
Thanks, Dr. Locke.
SCP is an amazing creation. Thank you, Dr. Locke. Thank you for listening. I still don't
What?
love you.
This isn't the real Matt. I love you though.
Imposter.
Oh yeah, when are we gonna
Lost
start on
Gus.
Among Us.
Mogus.
when are we gonna start on that?
Oh yeah, if you want
Right
to,
now.
yeah, if you want to
Please
just take a
take a
seat right
seat.
over there.
Well, I'm just now being told we're postponing the Mantis tests indefinitely. Good news, we have a new test prepared for you. Please grab a gun and line up on the other line. We're gonna get you shooting at some
Matt,
people.
that was the greatest reference pull I've ever
Wait.
seen. Thank you so much. Thank
Well, that's
you
what I was
so
referencing in the
much.
first place.
Yeah.
Also, can I just say, when we were doing the Never Fade Away story, Matt, did you whisper Among Us?
Maybe. We'll never know.
Cut the recording. Cut the recording.